Thank you very much for waiting.
ただいまより第5回国際女性
At this point, we'd like to start the 5th WAW W20. My name is Minori Takao. I am from the NHK World. Nice to see you all. Our credo in Japan is a society where women shine. We should create this world in Japan and also in the entire world. With this as a goal, the Japanese government started holding WAW in 2014 for the first time. This is the 5th of this kind. And because of the fact that Japan holds the presidency for G20 this year, we are holding this meeting with the W20 to celebrate the opening of WAW W20. We showed the opening movie. The W20 meeting will be held for the first time in Japan, and in order to gather all thoughts from the participating 20 countries, in order to have a beautiful flower for the empowerment of the females, we created this the video. We asked the company Naked, who supported our thoughts, to work on the production and the stage production as well. We'd like you to enjoy Ikebana arrangement, Sogetsu, and the projection mapping. The theme for this year is WOW for diversity, which is to open the possibilities for each and every one of us and make sure that everybody will be able to exercise the potential to the fullest to create the society with a high level of diversity. Here we have special. We are waiting for the special guest to come into this room, and we are working on it. So we'd like you to wait for several more minutes before starting the keynote lecture.
皆様お待たせいたしました。
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for waiting. Allow me to introduce 3 speakers for the keynote lecture and presentation. The special address, the keynote speeches will be given by Ms. Malala Yousafzai, Nobel Prize the laureate, and Dr. Michelle Bachelet, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. And also we will have a special address by Her Excellency Gabriela Michetti, Vice President of Argentina. Please welcome them with a round of applause. Thank you. This time, we have the honor of these 3 individuals on the stage. So allow me to introduce them. This is Malala Yousafzai. He is going to give us a lecture. Ms. Yousafzai had been deeply affected by her father. She was very much convinced with the importance of female education and peace. And Ms. Dr. Michelle Bachelet, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, he served as the Minister for Health and also Minister of Defense, and then he assumed this office. And then the Ms. Gabriela Michetti, she will speak about the situation in the Argentina and how they are tackling this issue of the gender later on. Ladies and gentlemen, our Prime Minister Abe is about to enter into this room. I'm sure this time around it's the correct information. We have Prime Minister Abe. At the opening of this symposium, we'd like to invite Prime Minister Abe to say a few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for the introduction. I am Shinzo Abe. I would like to thank Her Excellency Ms. Michelle Bachelet, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and Her Excellency Ms. Gabriela Michetti, Vice President of Argentina, Ms. Marara Yousai. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. I am very pleased to be able to organize this joint session between World Assembly for Women, WAW, and W20 today with your kind presence. We expecting communique from the member of W20, but given the opportunity here today, I would like to express my deepest gratitude for their passionate activities over the years. Allow me to mention at the outset of this conference that Japan, as a host nation for G20 this year, will extend unwavering effort to support the development of W20 activities. The World Assembly for Women, organized by Japan, commemorate its 5th year. But this is the first time to have the conference in the spring season. As we have anticipated 2 days ago, to welcome all the guests from around the world are symbolic flowers of spring. The cherry blossom flowers have come to bloom here in Tokyo. But this morning, the bitter cold have returned to even surprise the cherry trees, which we have not anticipated. Well, we could plan the schedule, but unfortunately, not the weather. But temperature may be cold, but the flowers that bloomed will not return to buds. I heard that there is a cherry blossom tree in the Japanese garden of this hotel. So I hope between meetings, you will at least have the chance to enjoy the arrival spring with your eyes. Day by day, the flowers are to transform dramatically to its beautiful full bloom. Well, likewise, Japan is with great speed transforming its landscape for all women to shine in the society. Within the 6 years of Abe administration, additional of more than 2.8 million women have made a choice to join in the workforce. The reform on childcare leave, which strongly promote men's participation in childcare. Platform for nursery has been enhanced 2.5 times the speed compared to the former administration. To stop the practice of long working hours, enabling diversified working style to meet each of the individual lifestyle have also been pursued by means of labor system reform. As a result, active women employment rate has gone up by 8.9% within 6 years, which demonstrate largest growth rate, far exceeding the other G20 countries. This, I believe, is the testimonial that society can change with solid vision and specific action. Well, Japan has put significant emphasis on the goal set by the Brisbane G20 summit 5 years ago, 25 by 25. G20 nations will work towards reducing 25% of gender employment disparity by 2025. In realizing this vision, specific action is needed. Within the G20 processes, we need to follow up on the commitment made by each country in the process that has been made, and together we will need to work towards attending the goal. In order to create framework for action, Japan as a host nation of G20 this year, my conviction is to demonstrate leadership in alliance with the members of W20. In 2025, Japan will be hosting the International Exposition. The theme is Design of Future Society, held in Osaka, Kansai. I would like to welcome the members of W20 to this expo to jointly celebrate achieving the 25 by 25 goal. Japan economy has grown over 10% in the past 6 years. and the main engine for growth was womenomics. This is not simply to mean to increase labor force. This is far greater value to have women in the workforce. Your Excellency, Ms. Bachelet, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, or for Japanese, better known as the former President of Chile, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation for your strong partnership in together exerting effort to achieve conclusion on the TPP-11 agreements. 2 years ago, in January, with the announcement of U.S. withdrawal from the partnership, TPP negotiation has stalled for one moment. Our country was unable to respond immediately. With a sense of self-discipline, I must confess that at times a sudden shocking incident, men are stunned and could be belated in their response. But you were different. Chile have called upon the member states to realize ministerial meeting in just 2 months. Amid the hype and concern of protectionism around the world, it kept the momentum for continuous negotiation. Since then, our negotiations have come to an agreement in just 1 year. This is only due to Michel's unwavering, consistent attitude to seek for early agreement. In the current world, we tend to emphasize on confrontational matters, but what is most needed is women's flexible leadership and tenacity to seek for common grounds. And not only men, but to fully embrace the talent of women. That very diversity will solve many social issues and will be the driver for the strong economic growth. Therefore, I have requested to all listed companies here in Japan to at least appoint 1 female director 6 years ago. But request does not lead to true transformation. As the members of W20 are already aware of, what is important is to create an ecosystem that leads to transformation. Changing the corporate information disclosure rules, it is mandatory that the number of female executives must be stipulated in the annual securities report. Within this effort, female executives within the listed companies have increased by 2.7-fold in 6 years. And last year also, we have changed and revised the corporate governance code, thereby explicitly underscoring the importance of gender diversity in managing the company. Enterprises without female executives are obliged to explain the reason to their investors. With this reform, we are expecting further accelerated increase in the number of women executives. On top of that, we need role models who we can look up to in order to complete the ecosystem. Your Excellency, Miketi Vice President, I would like to express my heartfelt respect for your long-standing endeavor in creating an inclusive society with the disabled. Despite your own hardships, as an economist, as a politician, as a leader to tackle social issues, your multidisciplinary outstanding achievement provides strong inspiration to the next generation women leaders around the world. One of the roles of this World Assembly for Women, WAW, is to invite many role models as possible to the conference and to showcase and communicate to the world. I hope WAW will be a slogan to always motivate and encourage women around the world. And we are willing to make further effort to nurture this forum as such. Around the world, there are still over 60 million children unable to attend elementary school. And unfortunately, 2/3 of illiterate people are said to be women. The home to Miss Malala, a girl called Laiba living in Pakistan, was one of them. She was prohibited from going to school from her father. But she secretly have started to educate herself by attending the non-formal elementary school supported by the Japanese government. One day, father, struck by his daughter's growth, had permitted Laiba to go to school. Now, she is a member of community's education council, and she is striving to increase learning opportunity for other women in the community. Laiba herself is teaching her mother, her sisters, and her neighbors how to read and write. The circle of education is expanding. Japan is also committed to play a major role in expanding opportunities for girls' education in developing countries. By 2020, in the next 3 years, we would be offering high-quality education and opportunity for people development to at least 4 million women in developing countries. According to the World Bank report, if all the girls around the world can receive 12 years of high-quality education, women's lifetime income will increase at most by a total of $30 trillion. Enhancing education is not merely a social policy. It is the most significant clue to sustainable economic growth. Japan this year, as a host chair of G20 Osaka Summit, we would like to take up this issue with sincerity. All the girls, at the least, would have access to 12 years of high-quality education. This is the world that we aim to be. And with the G20 leaders, we would like to achieve a firm resolution. One book and one pen can change the world. Historical speech Ms. Malala has delivered at the United Nations. I was not the only one encouraged by these words, filled with strong spirits. I vividly remember feeling that one woman can truly change the world. I still remember it. If that is true, many women having their voices being heard, and each and every one of us take action, the world can change without doubt. With that belief, Japan has decided to initiate this World Assembly for Women in the following year. Through this conference, Japan will continue on its effort to realize women empowerment, together with all of you, to advocate our voices and leading to action by each one of us. One voice, one action can change the world. Let us work together as one. Thank you for your kind attention.
安倍総理、ありがとうございました。安倍総理にはこれまでの進展を振り返りつつ、G20 議長国として力強く。
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Abe, for looking back into the history of the progress and to share with us Japan's commitment to lead women's participation in the world as a country holding G20 presidency. Next, we'd like to invite W20 Steering Committee co-chairs to address to you and deliver their recommendation. We'd like to invite Ms. Yoriko Meguro and Haruno Yoshida, who are serving as the W20 Steering Committee co-chairs. This year, Japan holds the presidency for G20, and W20 is an engagement group for G20, and we'd like them to deliver the recommendation of G20 for G20, from W20 to G20, which will be held in June. We'd like to invite these two individuals, Ms. Yoriko Meguro, Professor Emeritus of Sophia University, and Ms. Haruno Yoshida, former President of the British Telecom Japan. We are working on the gender equality and G20 engagement. W20 is an engagement group for G20, and we are delivering the communiqué, which is the kind of crystallized form of what we have discussed. So we are very honored to be able to present the communiqué to the Prime Minister Abe. The W20 has been working on the realization of the economic growth and the SDGs, and the gender equality is indispensable. This has been already agreed upon at the G20 Communiqué last year. So we welcome the G20 Communiqué, which had been issued last year, including AI. New technologies are making impact, and with that, Japan will be able to be active in the society, leaving no one behind. We prepared 7 proposals or 7 recommendations. Even if the policies are good, if it is not implemented, it doesn't make any sense. So we are not able to wait any longer. That's the commitment we have. So we'd like to make the recommendation to G20. So the good governance is a key term for our discussion. That's quite noteworthy of what we have done for the labor participation. We will reduce the gender inequality by 25% by the year 2025. So the interim report should be submitted by the labor ministers, and also the labor and digital and financial gender inequality should be eliminated, and also for the gender equality, the promotion, national machinery should be reinforced. So all these things are incorporated into the communiqué, and in looking back into the speech by Prime Minister Abe, they will collaborate with they will collaborate with W20 to promote this agenda for G20. We are expecting high hopes on that. Thank you.
We have so many people here, and I am being moved. I serve as a co-chair, and on behalf of the world, I am now on the stage under the spotlight due to support of everyone. Especially for the past 6 years, I have been inspired by Mr. Abe's initiative, and I sincerely respect Mr. Abe. If we were not without those policies in place, I'm sure we were not able to serve as a chair of G20. So as a moment of silence, we wrote up the recommendation, and we had our hearts to everyone. And on this piece of paper, we have condensed down all the thoughts and feelings of everyone. I'm sure something is going on around the world, seeking a new way of living and trying to rise up to the challenges. Half of the population is now trying to make and drive a significant change, as Prime Minister mentioned. this indeed will lead to the new growth and new style of prosperity. So we seek for continuous support by Mr. Abe, and hope that you will extend support to all the other G20 leaders. I'm sure the future is right around the corner. Thank you very much. We would like to ask ladies to deliver the statement. So, with a big round of applause, thank you very much. Once again. Mr. Abe, Ms. Meguro, Ms. Yoshida, thank you so much. Next, we would like to move on to the keynote speech. First, we have Ms. Malala Yousafzai, the co-founder of Malala Fund, will make a keynote speech. Ms. Malala Yousafzai was inspired by her father, Jauddin Yousafzai. She has been advocating girls' education and peace. She was attacked by Taliban, heavily injured, however, recovered in UK, and thereafter she continued her advocacy. Her activities seeking all children's right to education was recognized and received Nobel Peace Prize in 2014. So with a big round of applause, let's welcome Ms. Malala.
Sorry. Good morning, Assalamu alaikum, and Ohayo gozaimasu. Mr. Prime Minister and Mrs. Abe, Vice President Michetti, High Commissioner Bachelet, distinguished guests, people of Japan, thank you so much for the warm welcome to your country and for inviting me to speak at this year's World Assembly of Women. I'm so happy to visit Japan for the first time, and I'm grateful to Prime Minister Abe for inviting me and speaking with me yesterday about the importance of girls' education. I appreciate his leadership for women of Japan and for women and girls around the world through his focus on the Sustainable Development Goals and Japan's aid to education. I'm so grateful that he and Mrs. Abe were so kind to me last night at dinner when I accidentally ate a large portion of wasabi. I had never tasted anything like this before. My eyes started to water, and I started to keep my composure in front of this distinguished company. I thought it was an avocado or something. But they were very kind to me, so thank you so much for that. This morning, I looked out of my window at the beautiful garden below, the green grass, streams, and trees. The beauty of Japan reminded me of my home, Swat Valley in Pakistan. I spent my childhood in a peaceful place, sometimes called the Switzerland of the East. I loved walking through the streets and laughing with my friends. My little brothers had pet chickens. My mother shopped in the local markets with her friends. My father was a teacher. My greatest joy was studying and going to school. But everything changed when the extremists took over our town. They banned many things, from watching television to listening to music. And they enforced the harshest punishments on those who defied their orders. And they declared that girls could no longer go to school. In January 2009, when I was 11 years old, I said goodbye to my classmates. not knowing when, if I ever, will be able to see them again. At that moment, my father and I knew that we had to speak out, because we knew that life without education meant my friends and I will have no future at all, no chance to pursue our own dreams, no chance to offer contributions to our community we loved. And the extremists did target me for defending my right to education, but they failed. They only made my voice louder. And today, I'm here to speak on behalf of 130 million girls who are still out of school. Many of those girls look at my story and have hope that they will go to school one day, complete their education, and choose their own future. And many of these women in this room are here because we were inspired by women who came before us. Women like Grace Hopper, a pioneer in computer programming, Japan's first female astronaut, Chiaki Mukai, or Benazir Bhutto, the first female Prime Minister of Pakistan, who has been an inspiration to many young girls and women around the world. You are here because someone believed in you, like my father believed in me. Because you took advantage of the opportunities presented to you, because you fought for your ideas to be heard. And most of all, you are here because you had an education. But unlike you and me, millions of girls around the world are unprepared for the modern workforce. If we hope to create a world where all women and girls can shine, where women are driving innovation, holding seats in governments and businesses, our leaders must invest in girls' education. We know that girls trained in STEM can produce extraordinary innovations. In Ethiopia, 19-year-old Bethlehem developed software to help girls with limited internet access to access the resources their students that they need to learn. In South Africa, 18-year-old Kyra found a solution to hydrating crops during droughts. And tomorrow, I'll meet Canon, an 18-year-old from Chiba, Japan, who founded a robotics team in her school. But right now, we're only seeing a fraction of what young women like these can contribute. As technology changes the way we live, learn and earn, almost 1 billion girls lack the skills they need to prepare for the modern workforce. Last year, Malala Fund and the World Bank published a research showing that if all girls completed their secondary education, as Prime Minister mentioned in his speech, that could add up to $30 trillion to the world economy. Many students entering classrooms today will work in jobs that do not even exist yet. That means we must invest in girls today to ensure that women can succeed in their jobs of tomorrow. But 5 years have passed since our leaders agreed to the Sustainable Development Goals, including 12 years of quality education for all girls around the world. Unfortunately, we are far behind in making the necessary investment to fulfill these promises. This week, I'm asking G20 leaders to commit new funding to girls' education of 12 years and the skills that they need to prepare for the future workforce. As the host of this year's G20, Prime Minister Abe and Japan have the opportunity to lead on girls' education. I cannot think of a better legacy for this year's summit or a better gift for Japan to give to the world than girls' education. Prime Minister Abe cannot do it alone. We need all G20 heads of states, business leaders, and advocates to join this fight. We have the opportunity to help millions of girls to go to school, and we must take action. I was one of them 10 years ago, and I have no doubt in this. If we invest in girls today, a future beyond our imagining is possible. Arigato. Thank you so much.
Ms. Malala Yousafzai, thank you.
マララさん、ありがとうございました。She talked about the hindrances that they face in the developing countries for the female education. At the same time, she talked about the possible benefits of the female education for the world and society based on her own experiences. Now, at this point, we'd like to invite Dr. Michelle Bachelet, the United Nations High Commissioner for the Human Rights. She's from Chile, and she served as the Defense Minister and Health Minister, and from 2016 to 2010, and then 2014 to 2018, she served as the President for Chile, and then in 2010, the UN Women was established, and she was the first Secretary General for this organization. She has been very proactively working on the creation of the better world with the gender equality. And then in 2018, she started assuming the office of the United Nations High Commissioner's Office for Human Rights. 安倍首相、皆様、本日はありがとうございます。メララさんにも申し上げます。ここで皆さんと
and to participate in this country's effort to achieve a society where women shine. But I also want to appreciate your decision to twin this work with W20 to drive a strong and concerted policy message to the G20 summit in June. And I want to make a public acknowledgement of what the W20 has meant. Hasn't been for all these women working for some years, pushing for the gender agenda in the G20 summit, we will be even worse than now. So let's give an applause to all these W20 women. So thinking on the summit, of course, there are clear resolutions that will come from the work that you have been doing, but let me suggest some ideas. The planet belongs to all of us. If you, the leaders of the G20 countries, want to achieve sustainable development, then you must empower girls and women. If you want to end inequalities and poverty, free girls to make their own choices. If you want to improve governance and boost stability, tear down the obstacles which holds back women's participation. If you want to fulfill the promise of peaceful societies, make sure women are at the table. To address climate change effectively by influencing how we eat, how we produce, how we build, how we move, how we manage waste, then upholds women's rights. If you want to fight terrorism effectively and shape secure societies, educate girls, make sure women can participate fairly and fully in society. Make women part of your solutions, or you will fail. Because gender equality is not only about justice for billions of women and girls, it is the precondition for meeting the challenges of promoting resilient and sustainable development and building good governance. Whether we are talking about the health of the planet, or development, or conflict, or inequalities, from office jobs and care facilities to the corporate boardroom, from the most remote communities to the height of the national power, from the street and the school to the diffuse and powerful digital spaces. Because this is not only about the challenge which face the leaders of the G20 countries, it is about every kind of social structure, political gathering, and economic organization. So in all these contexts, this is our message. If there is no justice for half the population of our countries, then we will not solve our problems, we will just make them worse. Distinguished participants, discrimination against women is pervasive across the world. And in every society, it is rooted in specific histories and multifaceted characteristics. But in general, gender discrimination is grounded in stereotypes that are limiting and often demeaning and shaped by a view that women should be bound to the service of society whose goals and approach are dominated by men. In the Asia-Pacific region, as in many parts of the world, women are unjustly held back from full participation in the economy, in politics, and in social and cultural life. Many women are robbed of their dignity and the right to make their own choices. They are silenced, exploited, preyed upon, and both physically and virtually subject to attack. The humiliation of women who speak up online is rampant and unjustly trivialized by policymakers, institutions of justice, and the police. Sexual violence is also frequently minimized by officials at all levels around the world. In conflict situations, sexual violence has been extensive and devastating, with many victims targeted based on their perceived ethnic, religious, political, or clan affiliation. Migrant women and girls are also at high risk of gender-based violence. This discrimination and oppression harms millions of individual women and girls. It holds them back and robs them of the full realization of their rights. But that isn't all. Gender discrimination harms all the society. It holds everyone back. It is an obstacle to the full realization of everyone's life. Let me take a closer look at some economic issues first, because the economic empowerment of women and girls can profoundly change social dynamics and unleash tremendous transformation. That is why it's among the core goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Currently, over 2.7 billion women are legally restricted from having the same choice of jobs as men, according to the report of the World Bank last year. Billions more are deprived of fair access to education and training, or trapped in low-level jobs with low pay and few prospects of career growth because of social attitude and discrimination within companies. Moreover, as the Me Too movement and many individual incidents have demonstrated that workplace sexual harassment is rampant in every part of the world, yet another impediment to women's economic participation. Research suggests that if women could fully participate in the global economy, they would contribute up to $28 trillion to annual global GDP within 10 years, a 26% increase compared with the business as usual scenario. So at every level, from small private companies to vast multinational corporations, key actors need to ask whether we can afford to maintain women's position on the margins of economic and financial leadership. And I think the answer is obvious. We cannot. Empowering women unlocks economic potential at every level in society, from the state through private companies and state-run enterprises to individual women, their families, and their communities. And I want to be clear, by economic empowerment, I do not just mean we should increase the number of women in labor force, while the larger visions of the roles of both women and men remain strictly and tightly limited by social restrictions. Full economic empowerment requires a social transformation so that both women and men can fully and equally exercise their human rights and make their own choices. Women will truly be empowered, able to develop their full potential and shine when they can fully exercise their human rights and make their own decisions in dignity and autonomy, at home, at work, and in public decision making. How can we achieve that? Laws and policies matter. Women's equality needs to be guaranteed by law and supported by policies. An important World Bank report issued last month, entitled Women, Business and the Law, shows that countries which reform their laws for gender equality significantly increase women's participation in the labor force. It suggests that crucial areas for legislation include the protection of women's rights to freedom of movement, non-discrimination in access to work, freedom from sexual harassment at work and from domestic violence, equal pay, equality in marriage, prohibition of discrimination based on pregnancy, entitlement to parental leave, equality in legal capacity, recognition of unpaid work, and equality in social protection issues such as retirement and pension. Many countries have some laws and policies aimed at reducing the gender gap in economic participation. But in most countries, this more fundamental legal equality is not yet fully in place. According to the report, only 6 countries have achieved full gender equality in law. Furthermore, although laws are important, they need to be grounded in an enabling environment. This means shifting and dismantling the often deeply rooted stereotypes which underpin gender inequality and discrimination, including unconscious bias. Typically, stereotypes view women's role as primarily caring for children and the elderly within family homes. Globally, despite some progress over recent decades, women do more than 3/4 of the world's unpaid care work, according to ILO. In the Asia-Pacific region, they do more than 4 times the amount of unpaid care work that men do. So this undermines the possibility for women to pursue career development on equal footing with men and increases the risk they will become economically dependent. But also, these stereotypes also limit the life choices of men and boys, putting pressures on them to bear the sole responsibility for earning an income, skewing their work-life balance and subjecting them to excessive working hours. In this region where societies are aging at an unprecedented pace, and there is increasing need for good care for older people, it will be crucial for sustainable development, for social harmony, and for well-being across every demographic and economic category to rethink domestic responsibility, care responsibility, social services, and social protection issues. You may be aware of the ILO's global flagship program on building social protection floors for all. This is also a key human rights priority. Investing in social protection program is vital to achieving gender equality within an economy that marshals dynamism by strengthening the human rights of all. Countries do not have to be wealthy to set up important and effective social protection programs. When I was president of Chile, I managed many complex economic challenges, many of them linked to the sharp ups and downs of the global economy and their impact on people in difficult situations, including many women. So we managed to carry out reforms to the pension system with redistribution and coverage to ensure that the most marginalized people, including women, could count on a basic salary. This had many important and positive effects, not limited to the many individual beneficiaries whose rights we upheld. Even the very poorest country can afford universal social protection systems that include universal maternity coverage. The ILO has shown that a universal social protection system, which includes maternity benefits for all women with newborns, allowances for all children, benefits for all persons with severe disabilities, and universal old age pension can cost an average of 1.6% of GDP. And this kind of social protection system grounded in a human rights-based and gender-sensitive approach helps to free women from the poverty trap, as well as driving a transformation of gender stereotypes and gender relations. Excellencies, there is absolutely no room for gender-based violence at work, including sexual violence and sexual harassment in the workplace. Far more needs to be done to address these issues. Sexual violence and harassment are a major obstacle to women entering and remaining in the workforce and have significant negative impact on women's rights and health. The prevalence of these forms of violence is high, and women's demands for justice are too often minimized, mocked, and dismissed. Addressing violence and harassment in the workplace require a concerted and determined effort to change workplace culture. Vague verbal commitments are no longer sufficient to address this issue, and to be honest, they never were. There should be zero tolerance for the contempt and abuse of women in this way, from the highest level of national power in every country to the shops and offices of every town and to the field and rural agribusiness facilities where so many women are employed. Verbal abuse and physical harassment are linked, and eliminating both will require firm, transparent, and comprehensive measures to ensure that when such abuse occurs, the perpetrators are held accountable. To shape the policies which will effectively address these and other issues, we need much greater participation of women and girls in decision-making and in politics. For centuries, men have claimed to speak for women. That doesn't work. But women is a very broad category. Half the population cannot be described adequately with one word. We need representation of women with diverse backgrounds and characteristics, including age, social and economic status, disability, ethnicity, geography, religion, gender identity, and so on. There may be a need for a transitional measure to rectify profound historical inequalities. In Chile, 4 years ago, we adjusted the electoral system to ensure that women candidates would make up at least 40% of the people seeking elected office. To be honest, I wanted 40% elected, but I didn't want that battle, I have to say. It was not the only battle that I lost, but this was a very important one. So the subsequent election to the lower house of Congress saw an almost 7% increase in women deputies, representatives. In the first election since the measure was adopted, the ratio of women to men in parliament increased 10%. And the Prime Minister Abe was mentioning about women at the board of the enterprises. So we had the same problem. And we said, how can we incentivize the private sector to do that? First, start by home. And we decided that when I arrived to my second government in 2014, we have only 5.4% of women directors of boards at the state-owned enterprises. So we put us a target. We say by the end of the government, it should be 40%. But then we will show to the private sector that can be done and that it can be useful and very good for the economy. And I have to say, I ended my government with 42%. So it can be done. So there is concrete action and strong leadership for systemic change yields results. And I know that Japan has also passed laws on election quota last year, so I hope that this will be a very important step on more women's participation. Excellencies, no discussions of the world challenges can fail to address the pressing dangers of climate change. This is particularly urgent in the case of a conference of women, because climate change intensifies existing vulnerabilities and is therefore especially devastating to women and girls. Natural disasters, such as extreme storm and increasing sea levels, well, like we have seen just in Africa, in Mozambique, Mali, and Uganda, I guess, destroy homes, livelihoods, and communities. Compounded with gender inequality, they may particularly expose women to greater physical, economic, and social hardship, including displacement, and reduce access to vital services or work. In countries in fragile contexts, women and girls affected by climate disasters may face increased risk of child marriage and trafficking as well. Other less sudden manifestations of climate change, such as frequent droughts or warming oceans, affect water sources and biodiversity and erode fertile land. These too may hit women first, since most of the small-scale agriculture is done by women. So clearly, strategies to respond to climate change must have women's needs at their core. More than ever, we need women's voices today to contribute to good policy and sound governance. And indeed, across the world, many women and girls are raising their voices as activists, as citizens, students, workers, the leader of communities and businesses, journalists, academics, parliamentarians, and in every other role, they seek to defend the rights of their communities and of us all by raising human rights abuse and violations and demanding justice. As Malala has been, when she was very young, starting to call for the right of girls of education, or as Greta, this Swedish 15-year-old girl who is challenging, striking on the street to call for action for climate change. So we need women's voices. We need to ensure that, that gender is not a barrier to equal opportunities to all levels in all fields of life. And we need to do this because women matter. Each individual who is unfairly held back suffers profound injustice. And we need to do this because freeing women to enjoy their full human rights, inequality, and dignity is the key that can unlock better decisions for a better world. I thank you very much.
バチェレ国連人権高等弁務官ありがとうございました。Thank you very much. バチェレ国連人権
So from Ms. Bachelet, she talked about abolishing violence And she also talked about initiatives underway at international organizations.
Range of issues facing women. 次にガブリエラ・ミケティ、アルゼンチン共
Next, we have Ms. Gabriela Michetti, Vice President of Argentina Republic. Ms. Michetti is serving as a Vice President. She served as City of Federal and Lower House Legislator and Vice Mayor of Buenos Aires. She was elected as Vice President in 2014. Let's welcome her with a big round of applause.
I will to speak in Spanish because I don't speak very well English. Muchísimas gracias a todas y a todos los.
For me, this has been very impressive. There are so many women in this audience. So participating in this session, I am very honored to be given this opportunity to speak. So being on the stage, I truly feel the potential of women. And I also am honored because I am on the stage with Ms. Malala. So what she has done has been wonderful. Her strength, her family members, and what she has done. This was due to the power that she has and all the skills that she has. And she have developed all along the way and has given a lot of power to the world. So I am extremely impressed and am honored to be here with her. And at the same time, with Prime Minister Abe, I am on the stage and I am very honored. So Japan has making a major progress, and I am inspired. A lot of contribution has been made, and a lot of effort has been put into this initiative. And I'm sure there were challenges along the way, but you have achieved the results. And Ms. Michelle, I am very honored to be here with her, and I respect her. What she has done in the Americas has been wonderful. One single woman being able to manage the power and be able to leverage her strength. So she's a role model of all women, especially women going into the political arena or using the political power. For us, executing the power and exerting the power is very difficult. So this is unlike how men use their power. So we sometimes will have to rely on our power and exert our strength. But Ms. Michelle has been keeping her stance, and she has been able to exert the power that she has in her own way. In the world now, women has to change, and the world needs women to change. So women has these sensibility and has a power to connect and work together. And of course, women are also good at thinking about the politics, the economics, and the environment as well. And of course, women will have to be able to shine ourselves as well. Women have potential and has a dream of making a major change. So through this vision, for instance, can make an approach in peace agreement. And for future generation, they can be good teachers. And at the same time, some people stick to their vision and dream. And what's necessary is for women to be educated. So being able to develop the capabilities of oneself and realize the competencies that one has, and also not to be afraid is also important, and also have a strong will and to make choices. So mindset changes and cultural norms will have to change. So what we have to do is to go through this journey along with other women, and by doing so, of course, women has long been isolated and were left behind. However, now we can go into a society where women shine. So don't be afraid. We should demonstrate so that we can make a change and also make the world affluent. 50% of the world population is women. And regardless of the community, a woman can become a main player. So we should secure the space for us to be able to take actions, and also violence towards women will have to be eradicated, and also access to transportation, education will have to be given to women as well. So there are a lot of goals that we have to achieve, and as leaders in this initiative, there are a lot of things that we need to do. There's something that I am very happy about, and that is W20. The last meeting was held in Buenos Aires, and a lot of agreement has been achieved. And given the leader of G20, access to justice by women, and also protection of mothers, and equality in labor and education. So our effort is in sync, and we are moving into one single direction. This in itself is extremely important. The cultural norms will change, organization will change, and prejudice will go away. So I would like to emphasize that we ourselves will have to be committed, and at the same time put this agenda on the top of our list in terms of the agenda that we have to carry out. And a constructive dialogue will have to be in place as we progress, not to have conflicts, but rather, if we do so, of course, there will be an endless rivalry and conflicts. So we have to eliminate confronting with men. Rather, we need to be sincere in our activities. And we have to go through a transformation, and within each community and within the world as a whole. So as an individual, we need to realize the fact that what we're doing, we have to be committed, and there are more things that we can do. For instance, security and other aspects as well. So this is within our competencies of women. So for instance, the teams, it should be diverse if we have both men and women. So both genders will have to take part in all kinds of community. And we have to respect each other and love each other. And love the fact that diversity exists, and be flexible. Social inclusion is necessary, and we can learn from each other. Without it, there's no growth into the future. So I strongly request, let's all of us think together and think individually as well, and observe the direction that we're heading towards, and whether this direction is in sync with our ideal situation. And the daily activities, this may not take place so fast. The progress may not be so fast as we hoped it to be, but we should always review what we're doing and improve for the better. But this opportunity, like we're all here, we're here to listen to others. And we respond to what we hear. So we need to value what others are doing and pay attention to those around you. So these small things will lead to a major change, and even a change and transformation in the society. So self-education is necessary, and this has to take place every day, day in and day out. And then we can eliminate the bias and the prejudice in the society. As Prime Minister mentioned, there are a lot of initiatives underway in Argentina, and one initiative is regarding disabilities. And yes, I have received a lot of awards, but as a state and as a government, there were things that we had not done. That is, long-term policies, regional policies. We have not been able to incorporate everyone in the community into this policy. So we are taking actions, and it's only been 18 months or 2 years, but a major transformation is underway in Argentina, and we are including everyone within the society. I will continue this effort. And it is not just simply to progress gender equality, but we want our voices to be heard elsewhere. For instance, there are certain regions where women are still discriminated. We want this voice be heard. So that we can shed light to all the corners of the community and to the world. And once again, women have power and strength to realize a dream. And each and every woman have a dream and wanting to achieve these dreams. And sometimes you may not be making progress, but from time to time that can happen, and I'm sure if you have the will, you can make a progress. And the love that you extend to your community, your family, your nation, and to the world is extremely important. So we are looking forward to heartwarming world. So without women's contribution, what can we do? Please think about this, and thank you very much for your kind attention, and I hope that this will become a productive conference. Ms. Michetti, Vice President of Argentina Republic. Thank you very much. We heard the initiatives within Argentina and also placed importance on women's education.
can be expanded to other parts of the world. ここで安倍総理とマララ・ユース夫妻
So Mr. Abe and Ms. Malala and Ms. Bachelet, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and Ms. Miketi, Vice President of Argentina Republic, will leave the stage. So, please, thank you, and let's see them off. So please don't enter this route, please. Please open the pathway. And also the press in the back will also excuse themselves. So now we would like to take a break. We will resume at 11 o'clock. Please come back to your seats before 11.
Reconvene at 11 a.m. If everybody could join us again here before 11 a.m. Thank you very much.
急な足を受けてということだったんですけど。